Happy Tuesday, everybody. So before I start making a bunch of noise, I'll do this quick intro here. We're going to run pocket clips today, try to finish off whatever I can. My inventory system did warn me that I'm going to run out of material for pocket clips, but that's fine because I can machine half now and half in 2 weeks. The changeover on the mill is trivial, so I'll put the order in for that. I ordered all the other materials I should need, so that's good to go. And then we'll carry on with some printing and just keep things flowing to progress through this pre-order, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do today as we're doing it. Yesterday we left off with the pocket clips finished with their op1 stage. I technically had images when they were complete, but what we need to do is the op2 stage. So after the roughing, this little 1/16 inch tool does the finishing. That was also in yesterday's video, but that basically completes this side of the pocket clip. This side is finished, so the next stage is to machine the other side. To get rid of the pocket clip or to remove it from the stock, what I'm currently doing is just band sawing it off. I could come around with a slitting saw, but right now the raw stock I'm using, if I use a band saw to cut the clip off, I get like 90% titanium usage, and I can cut them off in about 3 seconds while the machine is running. So not a huge issue for me, but it's something I want to get rid of because it's a manual stage and those are less fun. So this is what the clips look like once they've been saw cut. We have kind of a hat on the unfinished side. That's going to be the op2 side that we're going to finish in this stage. First thing I do when I'm putting the soft jaws in the vise is I'll put the little aluminum soft jaws into place, but then I'll move them off the corner. So they're hard set on my left. There's a stop on the left side of both the vices, my left side. And I just jog them a little bit away from that, just so I can tighten them, which would in essence deflect that vise if it does deflect. I think it deflects like 3/10 from clamped to unclamped, which is negligible for this machine, honestly. 3/10 is pretty tiny. Nonetheless, I clamp them so I can get the accurate position of the hard jaw. And then once I have the actual position of that corner hard jaw, that's where my work coordinates are based off of, and each vise has its own work coordinate, then I'll shift the jaws back into the proper location. I'll confirm that the X position is correct on both soft jaws. I'll come in and I'll probe the Z position of the top of the soft jaws just to make sure if they were setting on a chip or something like that, I'd be able to notice it just from the work offsets. But then it would also make sure that the clips come out to size. I don't really need to be splitting hairs to have them identical to the same size, but if I'm going to run a bunch of them, it takes me like 2 extra minutes to make sure that they're perfect. So that's what I do. Once they're in place, we can run the code. So we do. What it first does is surface off the top, and then it's going to come around and put a nice chamfer on it. It's going to spot a couple holes. We're going to drill the holes for these screws, and then we're going to come through and chamfer both those holes. And then it's finished. Pocket clips come out, new clips go in. And as the clips come off, I check the chamfers under a microscope, or this is just a loop, but it's really easy to see if a chamfer's out. Even by a few thou, your eye can pick it up so quickly, which is rather annoying when you're trying to make nice, pretty parts. But I check them now because it's easy to fix now, just much more annoying to fix if you do a whole whack of them. While that's running, I'm going to chamfer the little edges on these little 3D printed spacers. I used to machine these out of acetal, but they're just spring seats. They essentially provide a flat surface for the pen spring to sit against. So now I'm printing them because I can get a little fancier with the design. But as they come off the build plate, there's a tiny piece of flash on one of the chamfers, and I just want to remove it, so I just hit it with a file. It takes like a quarter second. It probably doesn't need to be done, but it makes my brain happier knowing it's not there. Tedious, but I'm also doing like hundreds right now, so it doesn't look it though.
2,000 years later.
And it doesn't look it, but there's like 100 spacers in that container, so that'll do me for a while. But I may as well print more because the printer doesn't care. So the resin in this vat has been sitting for a bit, so I just agitate it up to mix it. I don't ever really want to mix inside the vat because that FEP sheet in the bottom of the vat is so sensitive to scratching that anything I can do to not touch it, I do. So shaking it, not as good as stirring, but good enough to avoid any damage to that sheet. And the software just projects that object that I'm trying to print layer by layer, and as the build progresses up, you kind of get a cross-section view of the model. So this is a quick time lapse, obviously, and normally it comes out perfectly, but in this case it did not, and that's just because I'm using new resin and I forgot to bring in my proper settings for this. So in the bath, we're going to have a bunch of stuff we have to clear out. The easiest way I find to do that is to put a little support. This is just an old piece of resin that's already been cured. I put it in the bath, and then I set the printer to expose the entire bottom of the screen. So it basically projects UV light against it for 30 seconds, and that cures a whole sheet. And then if you carefully pull, you can remove the entire sheet of cured resin off the bottom of the printer, and it's nice and clean, and you don't have to take the vat out, and you don't have to damage the FEP sheet. So that's the way I like to do it. This is normally what the print looks like with all the little parts, with all their fancy little detail. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.